This is the St. Francis Barracks. It was built between 1735 and 1755 as a Franciscan monastery during the first Spanish period in St. Augustine, Florida. Let's take a closer look.
The Franciscans had built their first monastery here, a wooden structure, at the southern end of the city in 1588. The present monastery replaced a series of wooden structures that had been destroyed, most recently by the English, under Carolina Governor James Moore, when they burned St. Augustine in 1702. The new monastery was built with coquina stone from the King's Quarry on nearby Anastasia Island. When Great Britain gained control of Florida in 1763, they converted the evacuated monastery into a military barracks for troops stationed at the nearby Castillo de San Marcos, now called Fort St. Mark. The British constructed additional wooden barracks and the King's Bakery, still located across the street, to bake bread for the garrison. When Spain regained Florida in 1783, the Spanish military continued its use as a troops barracks. When the United States acquired Florida from Spain in 1821, the U.S. Army also used the structure as a barracks. In January 1861, the only Army personnel on duty at the St. Francis Barracks was Sergeant Henry Douglas, who also possessed the keys to Fort Marion, which the Americans called the Castillo de San Marcos. On January 7, 1861, 4 days before Florida seceded from the Union, a pro-Confederate military unit called the St. Augustine Blues approached the St. Francis Barracks and demanded the keys to the fort, to which Sergeant Douglas complied, but only on the condition that he be given a receipt. During the Civil War, both the Confederate and later the Union forces, when they regained control of St. Augustine on March 11, 1862, used the structure as a barracks. The U.S. Army deactivated the St. Francis Barracks as well as Fort Marion in 1900, and the structure has been in the possession of the Florida National Guard since 1907. A fire in 1915 gutted the interior of the barracks, but the original, nearly 300-year-old coquina walls remain. If you enjoyed this trip to the St. Francis Barracks, please click like, subscribe to our channel, and we will see you on our next adventure.